are the 5 folks we have with us. So yeah, you can get going anytime, Michael. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, just to reiterate, everybody could mute their phones. That would make this go a lot easier. This is a public hearing of the New York City Water Board. As a reminder, this is a forum for the board to solicit and hear public feedback. In order for this to be effective and everyone to have an opportunity to
is now joining.
We need to outline some rules. In light of the COVID-19 pandemic, we're departing from our historical practice of in-person public hearings, as you can.
Peter
is now joining.
The conference call format is still new for the Water Board public hearings, and we're trying to strike a fair balance that lets everyone be heard while also maintaining order.
Is now joining.
We would ask that everyone, again, just place your phone on
2
mute,
participants are now joining.
including the registered speakers, in order to limit the background noise. We're going to have a presentation by DEP. After that, we'll call the names of the speakers from the list of pre-registered speakers one by one. After we finish calling names from that pre-registered list, there'll be an opportunity for any other speaker to state their names.
Unknown participant is now joining.
We will then create a second list of these speakers and call those speakers to speak in alphabetical order by last name. The topics of this meeting are the 2 proposals made by the Department of Environmental Protection to the board at its May 22nd meeting. The materials from the meeting are available on the Water Board website at nyc.gov/NYC.
Is now joining.
Again, that website is nyc.gov/NYC Waterboard. This meeting is being recorded, and an audio recording and transcript of the meeting will be made available on the board's website. Accordingly, as we progress through the meeting, I will ask the presenters, board members, and members of the public to clearly announce their name before they speak, so that it'll be clear that in the audio recording and transcript who is doing the speaking. As we stated earlier, we joined today by Water Board members, including Adam Freed, John Golden, Demetrius Carolina, Evelyn Fernandez Ketchum, and Arlene Shaw. Did I miss any other members on the call? Great. We're also joined today by Joe Murin. He is the Chief Financial Officer at DEP, Jeff Lynch, DEP's Deputy Commissioner of Customer Service, and Omar Nazem, the Water Board's Treasurer. I'd like to invite Water Board member Adam Freed to say a few opening words before giving DEP the opportunity to present. Adam, are you there?
I am indeed. Thank you very much.
Go for it.
And first and foremost, I wanted to thank the Water Board staff for their work in preparing for this and for the previous Water Board meeting and for the hearing that we have coming up and meeting on Friday. I also want to thank the board members who are able to join us today. I've been on the Water Board for 6 or 8 years and find that this is one of the core missions and responsibilities we have is to make sure we have an opportunity to hear from the public, to go to the boroughs, to
Unknown
go upstate.
Participant is now joining.
In the past, when we were allowed and able to do this in person, and look forward to returning to those visits next year as part of this process. And to remind those that are listening and for the public record that while there is a proposal before the Water Board, we are an independent board. We listen very closely. We review all of the testimony that's already been presented to us and will be presented through the process and weigh it. So while we are hearing today a proposal for the rate for the forthcoming fiscal year, no decisions have been made, and we come to this with an open mind and actively seeking the input from the public. So appreciate those that have already submitted testimony, those that we'll hear from today, and want to remind people that our minds are still open and look forward to the dialogue and discussion today.
Thank you, Member Freed. Appreciate it. Now, Chief Financial Officer Joe Mirin will make a presentation to the public and the board. Again, a copy of these presentation materials is available on the Water Board's website under the announcements section on the homepage. Again, you can reach the board's website by visiting nyc.gov/NYC Waterboard. Joe, are you able to hear me and ready to go?
Yes, I am, Michael. Thank you.
Great.
So good afternoon, everyone. This is Joe Mirin, Chief Financial Officer for the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, also the Executive Director for the Water Board. I'd like to thank Adam Freed for the comments that he added for the Water Board's perspective. I also want to emphasize as well my thanks to Omar Nazem for all the work that he and his team have put into preparing both for the board and then for this public hearing and for the upcoming meeting that we'll be having on Friday, where the board will consider and, determine their path forward. I'm going to be referring to the water rate outlook for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020 as the presentation that was on the Water Board website. I'll be going through this, and it is, I would, ask everyone to refrain from commenting or questioning, since it is a public hearing, and we could have an opportunity, later from the public perspective when people can ask comments at that time. So that being said, I'm going to go to slide number 2, which is the agenda for today's presentation, which is first to update on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on operations of the Department of Environmental Protection and the water and wastewater system. 2, water consumption and financial trends since the outbreak of COVID-19 in the city. 3, update on DEP's capital projects. And 4, proposal on water and wastewater rates to the Water Board in light of the outbreak of COVID-19 in the system service area. Next to slide 3, DEP's utility operations have adjusted to COVID-19. The outbreak of COVID-19 has presented unprecedented challenges. The agency has adjusted, and water and wastewater utility operations are functioning normally. System integrity, water supply and wastewater treatment capacity is unaffected. Water quality unaffected, and water supply system is not a conduit for transmitting COVID-19. System employees being provided with personal protective equipment, and managing against an uptick in flushing of toilet paper substitutes. Next, workplace changes. On-site temperature monitoring is being followed. Over 80% of office employees working from home. Mandatory work from home for non-essential employees. Mandatory social distancing. Using staggered and compressed work schedules. Meetings occurring by phone or video conference. Distribution of PPE and hand sanitizer to personnel. And revised dismissal and sickness guidelines. Customer impacts. Non-emergency water repairs and shutdowns are suspended. Meter replacements are on hold. Lien sale currently suspended until summer, late or fall of 2020. DEP call center and correspondent units are open. Walk-in customer service offices are closed. Online DEP permitting issuance. Emergency repair permits available in person. Next on slide 4. COVID-19 outbreak has reduced water use in the city. And this has a graph, so it's not very easy to relate verbally, but basically since, 3/16/2020, which is when the shutdown went into effect, total in-city water consumption has declined by 3.3% compared to fiscal year 2019. Since 7/1/19, the beginning of the fiscal year 2020, cumulative water usage is lower by 1.6% compared to fiscal year 2019. On to slide 5, impact of COVID-19 on operating revenues. Customer payments started to soften in mid-March, and since March 16th are 8% lower than during the same time period in fiscal year 2019. We are forecasting that full year FY 2020 revenues will come in at approximately 1% decline from the amount of revenue collected in fiscal year 2019. The factors behind the lower revenues are customers deferring payments based on household economic hardship across both residential and commercial segments, lower water consumption by commercial customers driven by business closures, the stay-at-home order, and less tourism, and the decision to suspend the fiscal year 20 sale of liens against overdue water bills until early autumn 2020. Slide 6, System 10-year capital investment plan. Here we show a pie chart of the system's 2020 through 2029 capital investment plan, which is a total of $20.5 billion. I'll go through some of the larger slices there as to where the money is being, committed towards or planned to be committed, which is state of good repair at 35% for $7.1 billion, mandated projects at 26% for $5.4 billion, sewer construction for 16% at $3.2 billion, water main construction at 10% for $2.1 billion, Southeast Queens sewers upgrades 7% at $1.6 billion, dependability programs at 4% for $760 million, and other at 2% for $446 million. On to slide 7, capital and operations and maintenance update. On the capital plan, DEP's capital construction work is considered essential and is allowed to proceed under existing COVID-19 restrictions. $370 million of capital funds were accelerated into FY20 to FY24 from the out years in the April executive plan for wastewater and water main projects. Operations and maintenance. Like all city agencies, DEP is operating under conservative budgeting strategy with respect to both the rest of fiscal year 20 and fiscal year 2021. Most hiring not related to COVID-19 response is moving at a slower pace. Basically, I will say we've hired no one. Rate proposal to be effective July 1st, 2020. We're proposing to the board no change to rates and to continue billing customers at current water and wastewater rates. No increase for customers in city and north of the city. We're proposing $20 million for affordability billing credit programs, consistent with prior years. And there's also a graphic chart showing the 0% compared to the prior year's percentage increases. Slide 9, typical DEP bill would remain at current levels. So going down through this, annual combined water and wastewater charge for representative customers. So for fiscal year 20 and for 21, average single-family charge will remain at $967.12. Average multifamily metered charge will remain at $718.43. For multifamily conservation program per residential unit will remain at $1,052.29. And the minimum charge for properties using less than 92 gallons per day will remain at $463.55. Slide 10, the budget includes $20 million for affordability programs. $6 million of that $20 million is funds available for home water assistance program, bill credits. These are available to smaller residential properties, estimated at 52,000 eligible accounts. Eligibility is based on participation in a qualified property tax discount program or utility payment assistance program. The bill credit of $115.89 per qualified water billing account. Next is $10 million in funds of the $20 million for affordable multifamily water assistance program bill credits. These are available to multifamily properties that are party to a rental affordability agreements with HPD or HDC, with terms of the agreement has at least 15 years remaining. Fiscal year 2020 allocation criteria prioritizing the most affordable properties based on median rent compared to area median income, and that's a $250 bill credit per approval rental apartment unit. The final piece of the $20 million is $4 million budgeted funds for leak forgiveness program credits. This program covers self-reported leaks that the property owner fixes. Repaired leaks are eligible for 50% credit of the charge on the leak. Next on slide 11, New York City rates remain below other cities. This shows a comparison, and I'll go to line 20. We're still waiting for the data for line 21. The New York City average is $967 for water and sewer, and the 30 large city average is $1,173. So we're still below the national average, or the 30 city average, I should say. The next slide, slide 12, New York City water rate consistently below other cities. This is a graphic representation of the 30 city average, showing that New York City has consistently been below most of those 30 cities. Next, slide 13, policy update, multifamily conservation plan. Customers enrolled in the multifamily conservation plan flat rate billing program who did not provide documentation to DEP by December 31st, 2018 are now exposed to a 10% surcharge on their annual bill. In light of the COVID-19 pandemic, DEP is not assessing the 10% surcharge for fiscal year 20 and will not include the 10% surcharge in the fiscal year 21 annual billing. That is a proposal before the board. Preliminary Water Board financial outlook. This is a table showing the budget for the operating and other the financing expenses for the system. So I'll go down each line there. Water Authority funds for debt service and cash funded capital investment, or defeasance of its existing debt, was estimated for fiscal year 20 at $1.943 billion. For the preliminary estimate for fiscal year 2021 is $1.634 billion. The change in that is lower budget for balance sheet management, lower year-end balances, and release of reserves from escrow and debt savings. Next line is Dep Operations and Maintenance, which is the cost to run and maintain the system for personnel and all other costs. Estimate for fiscal year 20 was $1.6 billion. Preliminary estimate for fiscal year 2021 is $1.578 billion. And the reason for that is continue to invest in engineering and operations and customer service bureaus, and includes minimal, estimates for the COVID-19 response. Basically a flat budget for the operations and maintenance. Water Board and Authority combined expense budget. This was $97 million estimate for fiscal year 2020. The preliminary estimate for fiscal year 2021 is $109 million, sorry. So minor change on that. And then there is a one-time reinstatement of the rental payment to the city, which is a charge of $128 million in fiscal year 2020. And we're estimating at this time that there will be no charge for that for fiscal year 2021. And that was a 50% charge based on what the city could charge the board if they were able to ask the max amount according to the lease agreement. So total projected expenses for the system estimated for fiscal year 2020 were $3.769 billion. The estimate for fiscal year 2021 preliminarily is $3.321 billion. Next, slide 15. This is a recap of the rate proposal to be effective July 1st, 2020. Again, we're proposing no change to the rate for fiscal year 2021. That includes no increase to customers north of the city, and that's inclusive of the $20 million for affordability bill credit programs. Slide 16, Water Board rate and budget adoption conference call. The board will be convening on this Friday, June 10th, by conference call using phone number 347-921-5612 and conference ID 956-371-194#. And the time of the board meeting will be at 8:30 a.m. That's Friday, June 19th. That concludes my portion of the presentation. I turn it back over to Hearing Officer Deloach.
Thanks so much, Joe. Again, that was Chief Financial Officer Joe Mirin. Now I'm going to give pre-registered speakers the opportunity to testify by calling their names one at a time. As a reminder, verbal remarks are limited to 5 minutes per speaker, and I want to emphasize that all comments, written and verbal, will be addressed at the Water Board meeting this Friday, June 19th. Jim Buckley from University Neighborhood Housing Program, are you on the phone?
I am, yes.
Would you like to give testimony?
Sure. I submitted a copy of the testimony the other day. I won't read the whole thing to you, but just wanted to say thank you to DEP and the Water Board for keeping our water system together. I know it's been tough in terms of the buildings that we're involved in running. I can't even begin to imagine how complicated it is for what everybody is doing to keep the water system functioning. Secondly, we support all the proposals that have been made in terms of maintaining the multifamily conservation program. We're happy to have the multifamily water assistance program. If for another year, we have been advocating for an increase in the amount of money, and in that program, the reason has been really amplified by what's happening currently in terms of affordable and low mod income multifamily housing, but also for low mod income homeowners. And so we would encourage the board to consider the possibility of expanding the program, if not this year, in future years. And that's all I got to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jim. Appreciate it. Larry Levine from NRDC, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Hey, go ahead, Larry.
Thanks. So my name is Larry Levine. I'm a senior attorney and director of urban water infrastructure with Natural Resources Defense Council. And I'm testifying on behalf of our over 18,000 members and 51,000 online activists in New York City. I submitted some detailed written testimony on Friday, but I'd like to summarize the key points from that. In short, we support the proposal not to increase rates for FY21 in light of the current economic circumstances. But we also strongly urge the board to do three things in connection with acting on the rate proposal. First is to amend the proposed rate schedule to expand the availability of low-income assistance and extend protections from shutoff, lien sales, and late fees in light of the current situation with COVID, both the dire health impacts of COVID and economic impacts. You obviously can't wash hands without water, and that's the number one health recommendation to prevent the spread of and limit the spread of the pandemic. We applaud DEP for suspending all non-emergency water shutoffs and for deferring lien sales until at least the end of the summer. But we'd note that there's not a specific end date on either of those, and that those protections are really going to be needed for quite some time, given the economic fallout of COVID and how that affects people's ability to pay their water bills. This is an issue that has gotten attention from the state legislature and from the governor. A couple of weeks ago, the state legislature passed a bill which is on the governor's desk awaiting signature to create a statewide moratorium on utility shutoffs for not only water but also gas and electric. And that bill includes not only a moratorium through the end of the state of emergency, but also for 180 days
Michael
beyond
Morrell
that.
Is now exiting.
For 180 days beyond that for customers that can show that they have an adverse financial impact because of COVID. And so we expect that bill to become law, and if it does, it would become binding on New York City, on DEP, but would urge that if for any reason that bill does not take effect, that the water board require those same protections to be put in place by DEP. Relating to that, there's also a need for financial assistance as arrears will accumulate for people unable to afford the bills. It's one thing to say we won't turn water off for a period of time, and it's vital, but it's also then going to be necessary to address the situation where people who have been unable to afford a bill are not suddenly going to be able to afford to immediately pay off accumulated arrears. I would note that the city of New York submitted a petition to the Public Service Commission, which was granted last Thursday, to give an additional amount of low-income credit for Con Ed customers in the city, and would strongly urge that as an operator of a municipal water utility, that the city itself offer the same sorts of additional benefits and credits for low and moderate income customers in the city, of the customers of the city. Not merely asking for other utilities to do so. And one specific thing that the city could do in that regard, that DEP and the Water Board could do, is expanding the Home Water Assistance Program. I noted in testimony for NRDC last year that the program automatically gives the credit to customers who receive the LIHEAP benefit, Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program benefit, for gas and electric customers. And it automatically gives the credit for customers who are currently receiving certain other property tax credits in New York City. But that is by far a minority of all of the customers who meet those same income criteria as the people who are receiving the Home Water Assistance Program benefit. And the reason for that is that the LIHEAP program reaches only a minority of those who are eligible for it. So to be fair and consistent across the board, in every year, and especially in this year, the Water Board should require that credit be available upon application by anyone who is not yet receiving LIHEAP, but submits an application showing they qualify for it. I'll move on just to two other points more briefly. Number two is the rate study. There's been a discussion for several years of the need for a revamp of an update of DEP's water rate structure. There is a contract, an RFP that was put out in the fall of 2018 for a rate consultant. There was a hearing on awarding that contract late last year for a 3-year term of, I believe, $1.5 million consulting contract. And I would ask if DEP can share what the status of awarding that and beginning the work is. It wasn't apparent from the city record. But really urge, and I have some specific recommendations in our testimony, and you'll hear more from the SWIM Coalition later. I would really urge the Water Board to hold DEP accountable as a condition of approving the FY21 rates, hold DEP accountable for implementing that study in an expeditious way and in a way that includes robust stakeholder input, and to focus especially on revising the rate structure to have a separate stormwater charge, separate from the wastewater charge, which would improve the equitable recovery of revenues needed to manage stormwater and combined sewer overflows, as putting the cost burden on those who are putting the burden most heavily on the public sewer system. And then lastly, on the rental payment, we were disappointed to learn that the rental payment was not completely waived for last year. Our recollection, understanding was that the mayor had said that was the intention for FY20. So I would also ask if DEP can share why that didn't happen. Appreciate the statement that it's expected that it will be for FY21 waived, but again, would urge the Water Board to condition approval of the rate on the city administration's agreement to waive that for FY21. And finally, as we've said before, and many others have, there really needs to be a permanent solution for the rental payment so that we don't continue having the risk of diverting ratepayer revenues away from the system, diverting dollars away from the system that could be used and should be used to improve it and ensure that we have clean and safe drinking water and wastewater treatment for decades into the future. I thank you for your time.
Great, thank you.
If I may, this is Member Freed. I just want to thank NRDC for their testimony. As you know, has come up in past rate case hearings and other meetings. I'm a very strong proponent of the separated stormwater charge, particularly based on impervious area. So, you know, we'd just ask the DEP staff if we could circle back on that request for information on the status of the contract in advance of Friday's hearing. That would be very helpful for the Water Board members.
Understood. Thanks, Adam. Michael Lockhart from the American Utility Consultants. Are you on the phone? Michael Lockhart, are you on the phone by any chance? Okay, we can come back if you're muted. Gierno Marte, are you on?
Guarinex Marte, yes.
Sorry for the mispronunciation. Go ahead.
No big deal. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I submitted my written statement to you guys. I hope that you guys read it because I am very, very concerned about this sewage issue. And I hope that, through this meeting, a good resolution may come out where either reduce the charges on the sewage or come up with a solution where you can find out whether the water that are being used is actually going to the sewage. In my case, as I explained in my written statement, the water that I have been using last year specifically was for my lawn. I was very surprised when I got the huge bill, for the sewage. And also, as I, wrote in my statement, there's a whole bunch of, I'm going to call it on all wash operation going on in the city where, the sewage it's actually being contaminated.
Unknown
Okay,
participant is now exiting.
So basically, I would like to see, some sort of a law enforcement on those unauthorized car wash, mobile car wash, that are popping up all over uptown and the Bronx. Lastly, basically, I just want to maintain my property looking beautiful. I love grass, and basically, without the water, I'm not going to be able to maintain it. And, like I said before, my neighbors are on the same boat as me. We want to maintain our neighborhood looking nice.
Michael Lockhart.
Is now
And
exiting.
basically, but the prices on the sewage utilization, it's astronomical. It's something that we cannot afford. Okay, and I really hope that you guys come up with an idea of how to go about this, solving this issue. On my written statement, I talked about a separate meter, I guess. This is something that maybe you guys can think about, talk about, and probably, hopefully, prove it, because it will really help, in solving this issue. But now that's all I have to say.
Is now joining.
That's all I have to say. So you guys have my written statement, and hopefully you guys take it into consideration and help me out here with this issue. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Michael Lockhart, did you jump back on?
I did. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and do testimony?
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'd like to address 4 issues. The first one is the letter of authorization, and we respectfully request that DEP cease requiring letters of authorization be notarized, since it's burdensome to customers, especially during COVID, but even afterwards. We work with hundreds of utility companies and tax agencies across the country, and DEP honestly is the only entity that requires a notarized LOA. Even the excuse me.
Is now exiting.
Even the state of New York Department of Taxation and Finance on their power of attorney form does not require a notary anymore. They used to.
Unknown participant is now
maybe
joining.
That's what it was mirrored after. Second issue is the complaint and appeals filing via email. We'd appreciate if the rate schedule was modified to allow complaints to be filed via email. Doing so digitally is not only more inconvenient and saves money, but it's also environmentally friendly. 3 is the Multifamily Water Assistance Program. We applaud the board for renewing this important and necessary program during the past few years to help the affordable housing community. However, there's not enough money there, and we encourage it to be expanded from 10 million to 20 million so that it can assist 80,000 units instead of right now only 40,000. This program not only encourages affordability, but it also encourages conservation, which is great. The 4th issue is the 10% MCP surcharge. For that, we're disturbed that the proposed waiver of the 10% MCP surcharge for buildings that are not in compliance with the multifamily conservation program is being considered. One of our clients received a deadline reminder notice, and that warned of a 10%, quote, 10% surcharge annually beginning with its July 1, 2019 MCP bill, unquote. And they frantically tried to comply to avoid that surcharge. And they spent considerable amount of time and money, and this included spending dozens of hours going through apartments, disrupting tenants to make sure that the fixtures conform to the rate of usage. And then they paid $22,000 to have 2 different doctors' offices metered. It wasn't easy. The doctors' offices each had to shut down for 3 or 4 days each. And now they feel like a fool. Your consideration of waiving this 10% surcharge makes a mockery out of this client and other property owners that went through similar efforts to comply with MCP's requirements. And we're still, as a result, instead of avoiding the 10% surcharge, our client is now most likely going to be paying more annually because those doctors' offices are now metered and using more than if they had stayed on the flat rate and just ignored DEP's instructions. This proposal justifies the waiver of the surcharge, quote, in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the surcharge was supposed to have been assessed in July of 2019 with the MCP bill, which is long before the pandemic started, 8 months prior. By waiving the surcharge for fiscal years 20 and 21, the Water Board is sending a strong signal that it's not serious about water conservation. As a result, metered and compliant MCP customers are going to continue to subsidize non-compliant MCP customers who are wasting water. By waiving this surcharge for customers who have not installed low-flow fixtures, it's only encouraging them to continue to waste water. And if there's no penalty for compliance, buildings, they're just not going to comply. Since frontage accounts were automatically converted to MCP in 2012, the deadline for compliance without a penalty was extended to December 31st, 2018. Therefore, property owners had 6 years to actually comply. And now we're extending it another 2. It just doesn't make any sense. If this proposal is approved, the city should make whole those customers who, in good faith, like our customer, who unnecessarily incurred significant expenses to comply with MCP's requirements, recognizing that the threatened surcharge will most likely never be imposed. That is, it should reimburse them for the expense of installing meters for commercial spaces and put those commercial spaces back on IMON so that those meters are not built. Alternatively, and we think this is a better idea, if DEP does not want to impose a 10% surcharge on non-compliant building owners, we think it would be better to provide a 10% discount to MCP customers who certify compliance as a reward for their conservation efforts. So they're not paying the same as people who didn't comply. That would be fair and equitable and maintain the integrity of MCP's original intention, which is to encourage the installation of water-saving fixtures in multifamily buildings. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Michael. Appreciate it. Julie Welch, are you on from the Swim Coalition?
I am.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you to the Water Board for providing this opportunity to comment on DEP's proposed FY21 water and wastewater charges. And also, thank you very much to DEP for all the work you're doing keeping us safe during these uncertain times. My name is Julie Welch. I'm the Program Manager for Stormwater Infrastructure Matters Coalition, and I'm delivering testimony today on behalf of the Stormwater Infrastructure Matters Coalition Steering Committee. This testimony is based on our written testimony submitted last week to the board. SWIM Steering Committee fully endorses the testimony of our coalition member, the Natural Resources Defense Council, and calls specific attention to NRDC's recommendations to expand protections for low-income customers and other households that are in current financial distress due to the COVID-19 pandemic. SWIM Coalition is a group of 70 organizations throughout the city who are dedicated to ensuring swimmable, fishable waters around New York City through natural, sustainable stormwater management practices. Our members are a diverse group of community-based, citywide, regional, and national organizations, water recreational users, and institutions of higher education. We are deeply concerned about the impacts of public health and the health of our waterways from polluted stormwater runoff and combined sewer overflows, which make our waterways unsafe to touch after it rains, sometimes even as little as 1/10 of an inch. Additionally, as noted in our written testimony, there is now evidence that SARS-CoV-2 viral particles have been detected in sewage, and while we do not yet know the actual health risks to recreational water users, there's heightened urgency in ensuring that DEP's work to reduce CSO stays on track. Regarding the proposal for no rate increase, we are in support of that and recognize the turbulence in our economy caused by COVID-19. Hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers have been unemployed and will need significant time to regain their financial footing. We commend DEP for being among the minority water and wastewater utilities that offer customer service programs. Yet, DEP's current programs likely do not meet the full need, especially at this time of widespread financial hardship. And again, we point to the recommendations of NRDC for expanding protections for low-income customers and other households currently in financial distress. We also support the wise advice of the Water Board members at the May 22nd Water Board meeting, in which recommendations were made for DEP to conduct long-range scenario planning and be sure to have a plan in place to avoid any future shock scenarios of double-digit increases in years ahead. As in years past, Swim Coalition has again does call on the Water Board to mandate that DEP modernize New York City's rate structure to equitably incentivize
is now exiting
responsible stormwater management in order to reduce the burden that polluted stormwater places on the city's sewer system and waterways. The current structure puts unfair burden on many New Yorkers, including residents of affordable housing, and fails to create incentives for sustainable stormwater management. Cities around the U.S. have restructured their water and sewer rates to address that burden, and DEP must modernize our rates as well. To illustrate the reallocation of cost burdens that these reforms could achieve, two Swim Coalition member organizations, NRDC and Riverkeeper, have released an interactive tool developed with an
unknown participant is now exiting,
which evaluates the various stormwater rate restructure scenarios and different categories of ratepayers in New York City. The scenarios modeled by the tool illustrate that it should be possible to reduce total water and sewer costs for most residential properties, including 1, 2, and 3 family homes and multifamily apartment buildings. We urge the Water Board and DEP to have a look at this tool and certainly offer to meet with you to review it further. And encourage the Water Board to adopt a resolution in conjunction with approval of the FY21 rate, directing DEP to take specific steps towards developing a new and more equitable rate structure. And also reference to NRDC's comments on the rate study that DEP is conducting, we would like to see the city record reflect whether the contract has been finalized and if this program is moving forward. And in 2019, we submitted recommendations for robust public engagement in this study, both prior to it beginning so that stakeholders can inform the criteria upon which the study is based and throughout its duration. And we asked the Water Board to provide public oversight of this study and to direct or actively collaborate with DEP to conduct vital and robust stakeholder engagement. That one of our recommendations, which we attached to our written testimony, is that DEP convene an equitable restructuring advisory committee to inform the content of the study, and that committee be made up of stakeholders from every borough, such as affordable housing advocates, anti-poverty organizations, academics, scientists, environmentalists, financial analysts, policy experts, as well as advisors from cities that have already restructured their rates. And lastly, the rental payment, as noted in previous testimony by Swim Coalition, we encourage the Water Board to request that the mayor fulfill the rental payment again this year for FY21. Though the mayor has done so for several years, we understand that in FY20, despite the stated intention to do so, when the rates were adopted, the city ultimately did collect the rental payment.
Unknown participant is now exiting.
While we are painfully aware of the direct fiscal challenges faced by the city, the rental payment is a relic of an outdated agreement made more than 3 decades ago, and revenue from ratepayers should stay with DEP. We urge the Water Board to make a commitment from the mayor and forego the rental payment, and also to look closely at ending the rental payment permanently. And is it. Thank you for the opportunity to provide our testimony. As noted, we'd be happy to review our recommendations with the board and with DEP.
Great. Thank you, Julie. Now I'm going to ask if there's anyone else who'd like to speak today that had not pre-registered. If you would, please unmute yourself and state your name clearly. Is there anyone on the call that would like to testify? Okay, great. Before we conclude this meeting, I want to remind everyone that the Water Board will meet by teleconference.
Is now exiting.
Meet by teleconference open to the public Friday this week, June 19th at 8:30 a.m. The board will be voting on rates and charges for fiscal year 21, as well as the budget, as well as its budget for fiscal year 2021, among other business. The draft meeting agenda and conference call information are available on the board's website, once again at nyc.gov/nycwaterboard. If you have a pen, you can quickly take down the conference call information now. The phone number is 347-921-5612. Again, it's 347-921-5612. And the conference ID number to enter to get on the call is 956-371-194. Again, 956-371-194, followed by the pound key. Adam Freed, is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up the call?
No, I would just appreciate again and express my appreciation for everyone who submitted testimony and spoke today. As I said, our minds are not made up. It's a proposal that is now before the board as we consider it, and we take all of the testimony we have received so far and will continue to receive over the coming days very seriously. So greatly appreciate everyone calling into what will hopefully be the only meeting that we have to do remotely for a public hearing, and look forward to discussing the testimony with my fellow board members.
Thank you, Adam Freed. Finally, the public is free to submit written comments to the board prior to the meeting on Friday. Comments can be emailed to nycwaterboard@dep.nyc.gov. Again, that email address is nycwaterboard@dep.nyc.gov, or you can mail it to DEP's office at 59-17 Junction Boulevard, 8th floor, Flushing, New York, 11373. In light of the pandemic, we would highly recommend emailing your comments if that's possible. I think with that, Omar, I think we conclude this meeting and thank everyone for their participation, and look forward to talking on Friday. Omar, anything to add?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Michael.
Great. Everybody have a good day. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Multiple people are now exiting.
Thank you.
Multiple people are now